What's going on, everybody? I'm BJ. Welcome back to the shop. If you watched my last video, it's putting together the awesome Onefinity Journeyman CNC. Absolutely love it. I've used it a few times since I got it put together. Use it on the project that we're going to do today. So what we're going to do today, we've got the holidays coming up. It's one of my favorite time of years. We got parties, we got food, we got friends, we got family, whatever you want to do. And even if you're watching this later on and it's not the holiday season, you can still make this awesome project for any other party you got coming up, or even a gift. If you got a friend or family, a loved one, you got a birthday or something coming up, or a wedding, you can make them one of these. They're super awesome. They're super special. But having those parties, what makes them even better is having an awesome charcuterie board. Everybody loves to snack. But what makes that charcuterie board even better, you might ask, is when you make it yourself. So this is what I made for a friend of mine. It is a walnut and epoxy with a beautiful white pearl epoxy. We'll get in there nice and close so you can see it. That is beautiful, right? So I'm going to walk you through the steps on making one of these. They're super simple. You really only need a few tools. Yes, I'm going to use my CNC and a few other things to make it, but they are awesome. And when I give these for gifts, people love them. So if you'll follow along, we're gonna make this real quick. Hope you love it. Hope you subscribe. Give me a like. Give me something. We'll see you in the video. Love y'all.
All right, so we're going to start off by squaring off both edges of this board just so we can fit it into our mold. I've already got the measurements. Get the other side somewhat trimmed up. We're going to leave a little corner there just for some artistic flair, right? Yeah, don't do that. Don't touch the blade until it's done spinning, even with the saw stop. Trim off this other side because it's not needed. The board only needs to be so wide. Get that trimmed off, and then I'm going to debark it off camera. Debarking's boring, whatever. Get that trimmed up, and then we're going to move over to our mold. And our mold is from Ahonui Artisans. These are beautiful, beautiful molds. They're HDPE. They've got built-in clamps, built-in leveling feet. I do seal them with a honey wax mold release, so nothing's going to stick. Makes it super awesome. And you throw those little HDPE spacers in there just to clamp everything down. And the beauty of HDPE is the epoxy is not going to stick. So get it all in there, get it lined up, and make sure it is nice and level. That's the beauty of the built-in levels and the built-in leveling feet, is I'm not having to worry about shimming this thing when it's done. All right, and onto our epoxy. So we're using super clear liquid glass today. This is their 2 to 4 inch. It's their normal curing epoxy. And we're going to use a beautiful white pearl from Black Diamond Pigments. So the epoxy is a 2 to 1 epoxy, which is awesome. You're going to mix it 2 to 3 minutes. I use a paddle mixer. I don't really measure out the pigment, especially when I'm just doing one board. I just did 3 little scoops of it. I use the paddle mixer, mix it for about 2 to 3 minutes, and I'll mix it for about a minute and a half, and then I'll stop, scrape down the edges, mix it for another minute and a half, and then afterwards I'm going to let it set for 5 to 10 minutes just to try to let all the bubbles that accumulate from the mixing process, because that is the downside of the mixing process. You're going to get a lot of bubbles in it. And then we're going to go over and pour this. So just pour it straight in the mold. I pour it from one end, let it all flow in. It's going to settle because the bottom of the boards are not perfectly flat, so it's going to settle in. And on the bottom, you can already see it leaking it over there on the left side. So I always pour more than what I'm actually going to be using for the thickness, just because you're going to have some waste. You want to make sure the bottom is sealed. Pop the bubbles, and you're good to go. So here it is, 12, 14 hours later. We're just going to kind of put the ripples in there, make it look like flowing water or a river. So I love these pearls from Black Diamond. They look amazing. Now, the other tip I'm going to give you, after you've mixed everything up, even when it's in this jelly state, go back in and pop the bubbles, because you're going to release some bubbles. You're going to generate bubbles from that stirring process. And it's at that point where it might not get all the bubbles out on its own. So hit it with some heat, get the bubbles out, and then you're good to go. Let it set for another 2 to 3 days to fully cure. And then now we're going to demold it. And again, you're going to see the beauty of these HDPE molds. Other than that bolt getting stuck, everything just pops off. So just comes apart. Now, one thing I do is I'll tap all the edges. That just releases the sides. And you'll hear it pop. And it just pops right off. Pop the 3 screws off one end. And see, tap, and it's off. Didn't unscrew it all the way. Oh well. And I use a little hard metal scraper. You see, pop that piece out. Let's give the edges one more little tap. And then work that scraper in at the bottom, and you'll see this thing pop out right there. See, super easy. That's a combination of the HDPE and the mold release. Awesome. We're going to trim it down. So we're going for about 8 inches wide for this board. That excess is going to end up getting used for something else. I think I made a 0 clearance insert out of it or something. Nothing goes to waste. And instead of using the planer, I'm going to use my Laguna 1412 bandsaw to trim this down. So we're going to take about a 1/2 inch off the top before we go over to the CNC to flatten it. It just makes it a lot easier. It's a lot faster than the planer, in my opinion. And sometimes I just don't like getting my planer out. So using my wonderful Onefinity Journeyman with a 1 inch flat, I think it's a 1 inch flattening bit. It might be an 1.5 inches. I don't know. I'm manually jogging it. I'm only going to show a little bit of it, but I do end up flattening everything, and then I'll flip it over and I'll flatten the other side too, just to make sure everything is flat, gets us to our final depth or thickness. And then the fun part that everybody loves, sanding. So a board like this, probably have 2 hours worth of sanding, 2 to 3 hours. I do take breaks in the middle of it. And you're going to go, and my process is I go from 80 grit up to 1,000 grit. And going from 80 to 320, I'll take the small incremental grit steps, cleaning in between each grit, making sure there's no dust left over, just so you're going to get a nice, smooth finish. But once I hit 320, we'll soak it down, get it wet, make sure all the grain pops, and then I'm going to go to 600 from 320. And I'm going to hit that twice with 600 just to make sure it's nice and smooth. And this is more for the epoxy. It's not going to make that much of a difference on the wood. And then we're going to go from 600 up to 1,000. And the 1,000 is just that final little polish on the epoxy. Yes, you can go further. I don't. If you want to, I mean, you can go up and, polish it with, automotive, like a paint polish or a plastic polish, and get that super, super clear. That's really only needed if you're doing an actual clear epoxy. When I do the pigments, I don't see the need in it. That's just my personal preference, and my customers love it. And my friends and family that I make these for, they love them once I get them to my level. So like I said, go up to 1,000 grit, make sure it's good and clean, and then after it's all sanded, the fun part comes in. We're going to use the laser and add a little something extra to it. So get all the edges, make sure it's good and clean. You see that beautiful shine on that epoxy. All right, and so over to my little diode laser. Throw my logo on it. This board's not getting any crazy engraving on it. If the customer does request, or if I'm doing it for a friend or something, I'll do like last name and like when they got married or when they bought their house. So the beauty of having a laser is you can pretty much do whatever you want to with it. Yeah, it's not a CO2 laser, but for my needs, this little laser works great. I do eventually want to upgrade to a nice CO2 laser. And then the finishing time. So everybody's favorite part. So we're using Atomic Finishes wood finish. It's a curing finish, so it's going to cure with a good hard wax coat. And you see, as we're doing that, you see that epoxy and that walnut pop, and oh, it's absolutely beautiful. I love doing this. It's sad. Sometimes I don't even want to give these boards away when I make them, but my wife makes me, or we'd have 100 of them sitting in cabinets with no use for all of them. Let it cure for a day or so, buff it off, and you're going to get a beautiful, beautiful satin finish on that walnut and that epoxy, and it's going to last. That's what I love about it. So thanks for watching. We'll see y'all later.